Why did the U.S. begin limiting immigration after World War I? Because there was a wave in nativism, prejudice against foreign people. After World War I ended, a need for unskilled workers decreased and immigrants weren't needed that much, which made Americans think that less immigrants were needed. Nativism was fueled by the fact that a lot of the post-war labor disputes were immigrant anarchist or socialist. That made most Americans see immigrants as communists, and since America is a non-communist nation, Americans did not like that very much. How did the anti-immigration sentiment contribute to the rise of the Ku Klux Klan? The Ku Klux Klan was resurrected as a result of the Red Scare and the anti-immigration mindset. The KKK wanted America to be for white American Protestants, so seeing as how a lot of the immigrants either weren't white, Protestant, or Americans, many Native Americans joined the KKK. How did the KKK view foreign minorities? The Ku Klux Klan also hated blacks, and they wanted to, quote, keep blacks in their place, implying racial superiority to people of African descent. They also considered themselves superior to Roman Catholics, Jews, and all immigrants. They also destroyed saloons and viewed any race that was not white as inferior. There were 4.5 million members in 1924, and the slogan of the Ku Klux Klan is and was, quote, keep America American, end quote. And the typical American, in their eyes, was a white Protestant male, which today still is the case. Another quote is from Madison Grant. Quote, the result of unlimited immigration is showing plainly in the rapid decline in the birth rate of Native Americans, who will not bring their children into the world to compete in the labor market with the Slavic, the Italian, the Syrian, and the Jew. The Native American is too proud to mix socially with them, end quote. And that quotation, he is speaking, Madison Grant that is, about a superiority to anyone who is Italian, Slavic, Syrian, or Jewish, when he said the Native American is too proud to mix socially with them. There is another quote, which is recent from Neil Conan. Quote, we've known for years that this day would come, but here it is. The Census Bureau announced today that non-white births make up a majority in the United States. Data gathered in 2011 show that non-white Hispanic, African American, Asian, Native American, mixed race, and others combined for 50.4% of the population born. That's the first time that white births were not a majority in the U.S. First time in U.S. history. And that still raises some questions about policy, from education to social services programs, and about how we can see ourselves as a nation, end quote. So if you compare that quote to Madison Grant's quote, Madison Grant was right in the sense that eventually the United States would start to have more foreign races being born from immigration, and also slavery, because slaves did not immigrate to the United States, that there would be a higher number of them than there would be whites being born, and that has actually happened now. So Madison Grant was actually somewhat correct. What was the quota system and how did it work? The quota system was established to make a limit for the number of immigrants allowed in the United States. The Emergency Quota Act of 1924 did just that. From 1919 to 1921, the number of immigrants went from 141,000 to 805,000. The Emergency Quota Act of 1924 was an amendment to the original act, so that only 2% of the actual Native American population, so that a number equal to 2% of the American population could be allowed of immigrants. So if there were 100 Native Americans, then 2 immigrants could be allowed in each year. Japanese people were not allowed into the U.S., which caused a lot of tension between the U.S. and Japan. However, most immigrants were from Europe and some were from Canada and Mexico. Any immigrant in the Western Hemisphere did not have to follow the rules of the quota system because the quota system did not apply to them. And in 1921, over 200,000 Italian immigrants entered the U.S. legally.